Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Kamisia Blackwood, and I bring to you another session in the Spatial Webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Harnessing the Power of GIS, Transforming Emergency Management Through Innovative Mapping and Resource Management. As the Caribbean and other vulnerable regions continue to face the growing challenges of hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes, and even public health emergencies, the ability to respond quickly and effectively has never been more critical. In this session, we'll explore how cutting-edge geospatial tools, real-time data, and smart mapping technologies are reshaping how we plan, respond to, and recover from emergencies. From enhancing situational awareness to improving interagency coordination and optimizing resource deployment, GIS is empowering decision makers to act with speed, accuracy, and confidence. Whether you're working in disaster response, public safety, infrastructure planning, or policy development, or you're simply curious about how GIS can make a meaningful impact, we're confident that you'll walk away with valuable insights, practical applications, and real-world case studies that demonstrate just how transformative this technology can be. Before we dive in, we encourage you to engage us throughout this session. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat or use the Q&A feature. We'll do our best to address them during the discussion or in the dedicated Q&A segment. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Nicola Simpson-Lake. She's a senior geospatial solutions specialist here at Spatial Innovision, and Nicola brings a wealth of experience in applying geospatial technologies to real-world challenges. Her deep technical expertise and passion for innovative sessions have helped organizations across the region leverage GIS for smarter decision-making, especially in critical areas like emergency management and public safety. She'll be guiding us through today's session and sharing tools, strategies, and case studies that highlight the powerful role of GIS in building resilience across our communities. So let's get started. And thank you again for being part of this important conversation. Nicola?
In this webinar, we will explore the essential role of Geographic Information System in enhancing emergency preparedness and response strategies. GIS technology offers valuable tools for mapping hazard, assessing, assessing risk, and coordinating relief efforts, ensuring that responders can effectively support affected communities. By leveraging GIS, you can optimize your resources and improve your response time, ultimately saving lives, minimizing damages, and aiding recovery efforts in time of crisis. Let's embark on this journey together to understand how we can harness the power of GIS to make a meaningful difference when it matters most. So this presentation will explore the 4 key stages of the emergency management cycle, which are mitigation, preparedness, excuse me, response, and recovery, and demonstrate how geographic information systems can be applied to support each stage effectively. You will gain insights into how GIS enhances risk assessment, planning, real-time decision-making, and post-disaster recovery. Now, each section will be supported by demos, flood impact maps, mitigation planning tools, live incident dashboards, and recovery monitoring systems. The goal is to showcase GIS as a vital tool for building disaster-resilient communities through data-driven strategies. Why do agencies use ArcGIS? ArcGIS is the only platform that can connect seamlessly disconnected data using the most comprehensive set of analytical methods and spatial algorithms available. Using location as the connective thread, you can uncover hidden patterns and trends, improve predictive modeling, and create a single authoritative version of the truth, all to help you gain actionable intelligence from all types of data. ArcGIS helps all public safety agencies gain a deeper understanding of where to focus efforts to prevent, protect against, and mitigate the effects of the complex threats and hazards found in all communities. It supports critical workflows in numerous areas, including data management and analysis, planning, mitigation, response, field operations, recovery, citizen engagement, and much more. And as we talk about today, ArcGIS supports the many missions of emergency management agencies around the world. So our technology, the ArcGIS system, creates a common ground through the ability to integrate all types of data. And when we ask the question or start to solve a problem, we first look for the information that we need to help us better understand. It starts with the foundational data, the base maps and imagery data. This includes the traditional street network and topography to help give context. This also includes the imagery or satellite view to help give context as well. So certainly after disaster strikes, we rely on imagery and Earth observations from a variety of sensors and providers to help us gain better understanding of the impact. Next, the base map or base data is basically what are the things that we care about in our jurisdiction? What do we value? When creating an emergency management system using GIS, for agencies here in the Caribbean, the importance of data sets should be based on risk exposure, population vulnerability, and operational needs during disasters, especially floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic activity. So in building an effective emergency management system using ArcGIS, it's essential to prioritize the data sets based on their relevance to disaster response and public safety. By selecting the most critical data layers first, agencies can ensure that the system delivers maximum impact, even with limited time or resources. Now, the first data layer I would select is critical infrastructure, and this includes our hospitals, police stations, fire station, emergency operations centers, etc. And the reason for this is that these are essential for response and recovery mapping. Their response and recovery, excuse me. Mapping their location and conditions help coordinate emergency services and prioritize restoration efforts. Next, we would select shelter, such as our schools, churches, community centers, as these are primary safe haven during disasters. Location, capacity, accessibility, and current status, whether they're open or closed, are vital for evacuation planning and public safety. We would next select vulnerable population and demographic data, those that are least able to self-evacuate or recover. And then we'd select road network and transportation infrastructure. These are critical for evacuation planning, emergency vehicle routing, and so on. So after gathering all our base data, we can fold on top of this our operational layers. Now, what are the data layers that you would need to manage within your emergency agencies and have access to from partner agencies? So to create an effective emergency response system, government agencies must collaborate and share critical data in a timely and coordinated manner. While incidents and evacuation layers are maintained and updated by emergency management agencies, effective coordination will also require collaboration with other key entities, such as the Ministry of Social Services for shelter information, the Ministry of Transportation for road closure, utility companies for outage updates, and Ministry of Health for resource availability, among others. So finally, on top of all this, we can include live feeds of information coming from the Living Atlas, authoritative sources like CIMH, US Seismic Research Center, the DEMA, and National Meteorological and Geological Agencies. Now, once all this is in place with ArcGIS, you have a geographic information system and you have established a framework based around location that can transform your data into actionable information. Now, in the incoming weeks, I would love to organize one-on-one meetings with our attendees to discuss the data and business systems that you use at your organization. So as we look to the future, we know you have many challenges to overcome, such as increased frequency of disasters, increased cost and complexity of disasters, growing mission and challenges. Often just because you're good at disaster, you're asked to help address other complex societal issues such as public health crisis, climate changes, homelessness, and we have our environmental stability with climate change and the need to be more resilient. And the last challenge is staff burnout and turnover. Too much work, not enough staff. Additionally, over the years, we have witnessed how ArcGIS helps emergency management agencies just like you overcome many common technical challenges, which includes mapping and sharing data, paper processes that do not scale, synthesizing many sources of information, and getting information into and out of the field. Now, this is where GIS steps in to support data-driven decision-making and help with those challenges. Now, ArcGIS provides agile capabilities to help you meet your mission needs of today and tomorrow, to help you overcome your technical challenges and address your organizational challenges. So for years, we have seen how the user community continues to evolve to leverage ArcGIS to support all phases of the traditional emergency management lifecycle. So we will talk more about that in detail today. And these are the most important ones for workflows that we see most often, which is preparedness, mitigation, response, recovery. And ArcGIS supports a variety of workflows for each of these phases. So first, from a preparedness perspective, there are many ways in which ArcGIS can help you prepare and improve your readiness. Using ArcGIS, you can conduct impact analysis to gain a better understanding of the potential impact of disasters in a data-driven way. Also, ArcGIS can be used in a variety of creative ways to support exercise and training. This includes mapping hypothetical scenarios to help you and your team walk through a potential event. And finally, create interactive data-driven plans based on GIS that help bring your preparedness activities to life in new and dynamic ways to help you make more informed decisions and prepare you to respond more effectively. So while putting this presentation together, I was initially drawn to focus on hurricane due to their dramatic impact and urgency they create. However, I came to realize that although hurricanes are highly visible and attention-grabbing, flooding, often quieter and more frequent, can be just as destructive, earning its place as a silent but deadly threat. So although hurricanes pose a serious threat to our island, flooding occurs far more frequently across the region. Heavy rains, both from tropical storms and regular weather patterns, often cause rivers to overflow, flash floods, and significant runoff in coastal and low-lying areas. These flooding events can disrupt daily life, damage infrastructure, and contaminate freshwater supplies. While hurricanes are dramatic and headline-making, the more regular floodwater incidents, often triggered by persistent rainfall, represent a constant challenge for communities. And of course, many islands have implemented flood mitigation strategies such as improved drainage systems and reinforced riverbanks. However, despite these efforts, rapid urbanization and deforestation continue to increase flood risk. So, reducing the impact and frequency of flooding, especially in vulnerable regions like the Caribbean, requires a combination of environmental, infrastructural, and policy-based strategies. Climate change is contributing more frequent and severe floods in the Caribbean region due to its influence on weather patterns and often lead to extreme and prolonged precipitation events. Additionally, as Caribbean urban centers continue to expand, the natural water cycle and drainage patterns are significantly altered, which worsen the effects of intense storms. So to understand which population and infrastructure are most at risk, various agencies and organizations within the Caribbean, such as the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SIDEMA, and National Disaster Management Offices, collect and analyze data to make predictions about the potential impact of major flooding events. SIDEMA uses GIS tools to effectively interpret the effects and different natural hazards on the effects of different natural hazards on the region and provide timely warning. Now, emergency preparedness is critical for communities to effectively respond to flooding events, and ESRI's flood impact analysis solution plays a significant role in this process. This solution enables emergency management, planning, and public works staff to develop detailed flood scenarios, visualize potential impacts on critical infrastructure, and assess vulnerabilities within the community. By leveraging flood depth data, the flood impact analysis solution allows users to define flood impact areas and determine which assets will be affected, facilitating informed decision-making and resource allocation. So this proactive approach helps enhance community resilience by preparing for various flooding scenarios and ensuring that emergency response plans are well informed and functionable. Now, for users with ArcGIS Online or enterprise licenses, you will be able to deploy this solution in your environment at no additional cost. Using ArcGIS Pro, you can access tools and tables from the deployed solution, enabling you to import your data into the model to perform flood impact analysis or local hazard predictive analysis on critical infrastructure. Our planning chief, EM staff, or directors will be able to streamline the predictive hazard impact assessment workflow using ArcGIS Pro to guide them through data analysis and sharing procedures. Configuring dashboards, web app builder, and story maps will allow you to share your flood impact map with internal and external stakeholders. Now, this solution offers easily navigable steps to follow in order to produce information that can be leveraged to assess community infrastructures. And ArcGIS Pro project walks users through data management and analysis, as well as how to share the final output of your assessment. Using the data outline on screen, the same analysis displayed can be achieved with relative ease. Now, the flooding scenario display on screen were generated using ArcGIS Pro and dashboard using the reference data. By performing a flood impact analysis based on varying flood depth caused by severe or prolonged rainfall, leading to river and drainage system overflowing, you can identify areas facing moderate to severe impacts. Now let's have a look at mitigation, the second stage in our emergency management life cycle. Hazard mitigation requires tools that can assess systematic risk and community vulnerability, design effective policies and risk reduction strategies, and engage the whole community. Using ArcGIS help communities reduce the effect of future disasters by mapping and analyzing hazards and demographics for a more equitable approach to resilience that can change future outcomes. Now, a couple of examples include digitally operationalize hazard mitigation plan by providing the data and information in live, dynamic, interactive applications, not just static PDFs or three-ring binders. It allows you to prioritize mitigation efforts in high-risk areas by conducting GIS-based risk assessment to help you better understand your vulnerabilities to future disasters. And it allows for inventory and tracking mitigation projects using ArcGIS to more effectively help you reduce your risk. Now, we're about to view our first demo of the morning, and this will show you how you can modernize the hazard mitigation planning process with ArcGIS and Hub and liberate hazards and risk data from their traditional paper or PDF process that aren't dynamic and interactive. Now, the technology that will be displayed in this demo are Hub Initiative Template, and Portfolio App. And this demo is centered around mitigation information sharing and communication engagement. And this is geared towards our planning chief, our mitigation staff, and directors.
Hello, today I'd like to show you how ArcGIS can support a modern approach to hazard mitigation planning. Now, traditionally, this is a paper-based process, and from a GIS perspective, you can't interact or use from an analytic perspective for operations or response all the great hazards and risk data that's been collected as a part of the process. So what I'm going to show you today is configuration of ArcGIS apps in an ArcGIS hub site for a notional update to a local hazard mitigation plan. Now, this has many benefits, including helping you modernize and operationalize the hazard mitigation planning process, help you engage and inform your community, and obviously with the goal of keeping them safe and helping you increase the resiliency in your community. And finally, to help you more effectively meet FEMA requirements and more importantly, get FEMA funding to support a lot of your work. Now let's begin the tour. So what we're looking at here is the configuration of the hub site, and this is intended in this case to be public, but certainly this could be gated as well, and we can start to explore some of the elements of the hub site here. So first off, we can look at what are the high-risk areas in the jurisdiction. Now this represents a lot of the hazards data that's been collected and displayed in an interactive format that we can start to peruse through. We can look at the flood hazards, wildfire data, um, hazardous material routes, basically whatever hazards data we've collected as a part of the planning process, we can operationalize in viewers like these. And this can be, hazards data. We can also look at, historical occurrence data too, like historical tornado tracks or hailstorms, windstorms, wildfires, whatever the hazards may be in your, jurisdiction. Now, obviously, this is kind of from an overview perspective, but we can also zoom in and get more details on any area. So for example, if I want to look at this area in particular, and now I can start to see, in a more zoomed in fashion, the various hazards around, this area, including more detailed, wildfire hazards data, the closer that I zoom in. So that's, one section. So part of the purpose of using ArcGIS Hub is it's a great way for us to engage the community. And there's a variety of ways that it allows us and enables us to do that. Obviously we're, kind of looking at the traditional, PDF view of the previous version of the plan. But using some of the hub features, we can, follow this initiatives, using some of the hub conventions to get, various updates. We can interactively encourage feedback from the community. In this case, having them use a survey 123 form to provide specific suggestions on how they'd like to be contacted and any other kind of additional, data or information that they'd submit, as a part of the process. Hub also has a convention for events as well, and advertising events that may be happening in your jurisdiction. So in this case, if there's public planning meetings that have or will happen as a part of the process, we can use Hub as a way to sign up and share this data. Obviously, show where it is on the map, and this is just another feature that you can interact with and leverage as well, and including also things like including the social media tags and the like. And then finally, at the bottom of this page, just a shout out to the various partners that helped participate as a part of the process, and in this case, just providing links to the logos to the various other various agencies. So that's the first page here. We can on the second page drill in and see more details about hazard and risk. In a similar fashion, we can explore the FEMA's National Risk Index data that's specific to the Travis County area that we're using for our demonstration, and look at specific risk around the categories of data that they provide, in this case in the census tract data for wildfire, heat wave, hail risk, tornado, and the like. So there's about 18 different hazards that are available as a part of the National Risk Index. Not all of them are germane here to this area of Texas. And also a big component of that is, social vulnerability and community resiliency as well. And now all of this has been operationalized in a way that makes it easy for users to interact with to get more information about the risks and vulnerability in the jurisdiction. And then finally, we can look at this in more detail and explore specific risks, within the community. So in this case, if we want to look at this particular part of the flood zone, so this is the 500-year flood zone in Austin, Texas, we can get more specific details on, essentially the assets or the things that we care about in our community that could be potentially impacted if flooding were to happen in this area. So we've got, 70 building, footprints, library, fire station, some, government buildings, and this viewer can be configured with any, data that you want to help, tell you, what, particular assets, critical infrastructure, things you care about, may be exposed to different hazards like flooding or wildfire, whatever the case may be. So yeah, this completes this section. And then finally, what can we do about some of these issues and challenges? What are some ways that we can help reduce the risk in our jurisdiction? Well, what we're looking at here is, looking at both proposed and mitigation projects that are actually kind of occurring. So instead of inventorying those mitigation projects in an Excel spreadsheet or a table in a PDF document, we can have those be living in a plan like this, or excuse me, in an element like this, in this case a dashboard, to see more details about each of the specific mitigation projects. And we can kind of flip through the different ones that are indexed here, and there's a whole schema for how this is managed on the back end for things like the phase and what fiscal year that these will occur in, the funding, and whatever basically details about the particular project that you want to track as a part of the process. So obviously things to come, obviously projects here to help reduce our risk and increase our resiliency within our community. And then finally, just kind of a tip of the hat to how this can be integrated with other existing planning efforts that, through various community or national initiatives. So yeah, so that was basically a quick tour to show you how ArcGIS Hub can help you modernize your hazard mitigation planning approach. And you've seen how we've been able to digitally operationalize hazard mitigation plans, interact with GIS-based risk assessments, and interact with them in a new and compelling way to leverage their data for more analysis. And then finally, you saw inventorying and tracking mitigation projects in a modern way as well. So that kind of completes the tour of the demonstration. And the last thing that I'd like to mention before closing is this is actually a Hub initiative template. So this is something that you can get started with today. So if you go into ArcGIS Hub and you were to create a new initiative here, we can actually browse to this particular template. So I'll search not my organization, but all the kind of global set of templates. and just type in a couple of keywords here, and you can see this, hub initiative template. I can hit the activate, button, and you could get, started very quickly on your own with something, very similar. And this, I'd like to give credit to Shelby Hines from Esri Professional Services and the Esri Denver office for putting together this initiative template that we've been able to leverage and simply configure for today's, demonstration. So thanks for watching. Hello, today I'd like to show you how ArcGIS can support a modern approach to hazard.
Okay, so that's our first demo for the morning. So the third stage in our EM life cycle is the third stage in our EM life cycle is response. This stage will highlight our emergency management operation solutions that is used to maintain situational awareness and share essential emergency information during an emergency. So from the response perspective, ArcGIS can help you enhance situational awareness and inform and information sharing. Maintaining situational awareness is critical for effective response. ArcGIS provides an integrated real-time location-based solution that makes it easy for decision makers to monitor rapidly changing conditions as they happen, brief operation staff in real time, and make better informed decisions that can save lives and property. Now, this solution will allow you to quickly understand the use of potential impact from an incident by leveraging easy to use ArcGIS tools to better comprehend who is and what is impacted. It allows you to manage and deploy limited resources by making data-driven decisions. It allows for monitoring rapidly changing conditions in a single dashboard fed by relevant feeds and data from a variety of sources. It provides real-time dynamic operational briefs based on live apps and data with the most up-to-date status information. It also allows you to manage information sharing, both externally and internally, allowing you to communicate effectively with the public and media on the current situation by putting critical information in the context of location, such as where are roads closed, where are the evacuation zones, where are there resources to help me, such as shelters. And then it allows you to share information and collaborate. It's also enabled by ArcGIS to securely share apps, maps, and data. Now, the visual on screen or incident status dashboard shows both real-time information on a map along with key performance indicators to provide situational awareness at a glance in your command center, desktop, or tablet. Now, we will have a closer look at the incident status dashboard in our next demo. So in this section, we have two short demos. The first demo will discuss the situational dashboard, which is intended for our internal use, while the second demo will be for our ArcGIS users and the general public. Now, the demo you're about to view, this is location intelligence. This will show how location intelligence provides powerful mapping and analytical capabilities that allow you to see what and where things are happening at the moment they occur. Armed with this information, you can manage disasters and large-scale emergencies with foresight and agility. Now, the technology that will be used for this demo are Dashboard, Web App Builder, and Portfolio App. And this is mainly for our operations chief.
Effectively maintaining situational awareness is important to every emergency management agency, and frankly, any organization with an operations component.
I'm going to show you how ArcGIS apps can be used to monitor changing conditions, put plans into action, and brief teams in real time. In the Operations Center, staff need to be able to monitor current conditions and key metrics in both blue and gray sky days. This allows operations staff to have a current understanding of the situation at a quick glance. Here we are looking at a configuration of the operations dashboard to show current conditions for Baltimore, Maryland. We can see live feeds of information like weather warnings and watches, and we can zoom out to get a better sense of what's going on at a regional level. Here we can see the current flooding situation along the Jones River, where they have received a lot of rain in recent days. This is the scenario that we're going to focus on for these demonstrations. Here we can see the state of the current situation: 43 open shelters, 25% occupancy, 7 points of distribution, 4 road closures, 2 mission-ready packages. This application allows staff to come into the command center and get a quick glance to get an idea of what's going on, not only from a mapping perspective, but also by looking at key performance indicators to get a better sense of the situation. The Operations Response Viewer provides staff the ability to update and edit information without having to go through the GIS staff. In this case, with a couple of clicks, I can simply update information like shelter status. And these updates are immediately available in other apps throughout the system, like the incident dashboard that you're looking at here. And we can see the number of shelters change from 43 to 44. This is the main editing app that can be used by operations staff to help keep incident information up to date. Using story maps, we can brief teams in real time using the same information that's used for planning and operations. Instead of using paper maps or static PowerPoints, which are immediately out of date, we can use a roll-up of live data and apps to provide better context to explain the situation so better decisions can be made. Effectively maintaining.
All right. Now we'll have a look at our second demo, and the main purpose of this demo is for our emergency offices, for public information, to share public information. All right, so this demo will allow you to communicate with the public with an authoritative voice using powerful, detailed digital maps designed to scale when the public and media need it most. Esri's solution makes it easy to share where hazard exists, where evacuation zones are located, and where to evacuate when needed. The technology that will be used in this demo are Hub, Nearby App, and Experience Builder. And this is for our GIS users and for the general public.
Now let's talk about the information sharing capabilities for emergency management operations. First, let's talk about sharing information with the public to provide them additional details and provide them resources to keep them safe. More and more, we see agencies turning to ArcGIS Hub to provide a single destination for people to go, to put apps and data in context, and to provide situation awareness information to both the curious and concerned public. So in this example, for our Austin flooding scenario, we can see this hub site is telling us key pieces of information already, like the number of road closures, evacuation notices, open shelters, and the like. We have more context with the embedded map right here inside our web page. And this also serves as a launching off point for additional information and resources, such as the ability to find open shelters or volunteer to help, key social media feeds, and the like. Damage assessment information, including the ability to report in, damage on your own, and we'll talk about this in another, section. And all of this is, pretty configurable to meet your information sharing needs. But here, let's dig into more details about this, evacuation map and, in the specific public information map that has been configured for this particular, incident. So in this case, the public can come in and view this, map and either click on the map or simply type in their address to get more details on what may be, impacting them. First of all, are they in evacuation zone? Do they need to get out of the area? Are they in harm's way? What are some of the resources that are available to help them? Like, for example, what are the nearest shelters, and the like. And so this map is configurable to help, kind of meet the needs of sharing information, with the public. But one thing that we wanted to convey here is this particular app is designed to work, well on mobile devices. And obviously, many times the affected public would be, interacting with the map here on their mobile device. And so it's critically important that we have an application that's designed well to work in this environment as well, and this kind of form factor to allow the public to be able to interact with the map here on their mobile devices, as they may not be, home when they get the evacuation, notice. A couple of other things here to talk about from a public information perspective is, we wanted to make this really easy for communication staff or public information officer staff to share with the public. So they can copy a link, or we make it really easy to embed in their agency's Facebook page, or share it out via social media like Twitter. And time again we see when communication staff share this information out publicly and kind of meet the public where they're at, that it can really help to calm the situation by providing that transparent information and providing constituents access to key information to keep them safe and out of harm's way. So some other additional kind of critical important features here that are helpful from an information sharing perspective, especially with the public. Now, another key feature here that we wanted to highlight is the internal information sharing. So as we can see here in this application, this top row, this top card of information provides, quick access to the situational awareness applications for internal, operations staff. So it's kind of a way to have, kind of at a glance, the kind of menu, if you will, of all the critical situational awareness, applications. Another kind of critical piece of functionality here that we wanted to highlight is the ability for interagency information sharing. So we can see in this kind of row of cards, it's a set of data that are coming from an Arctis Online group that may contain both public and secure information. So it's really important that we can provide secure access across multiple different organizations for stakeholders and partners to be able to share and access information that they need in a secure way to carry out their mission needs. So this concludes the quick tour of the information sharing capabilities for emergency management operations.
Right, so now we are on the final stage of our EM life cycle, and this is looking at recovery. Now, this stage will highlight our damage assessment solution that can be used to assess initial damage assessment after a natural disaster or catastrophic incident. So as mentioned earlier, all solutions discussed in this webinar can be deployed in your environment if you're an existing ArcGIS Online or Enterprise license holder. Now, ArcGIS also supports the recovery phase, helping you to return to normalcy faster and expedite recovery funding. ArcGIS allows you to conduct damage assessment more efficiently using understanding the impact of a disaster is key for accurately deploying resources and helping a community recover. Esri's damage assessment solution is aligned with Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA programs, especially for individual assistance and public assistance. The solution supports damage report collection, assigning initial damage assessments, monitoring the progress of assessment, briefing stakeholders, and sharing information. It allows you to expedite debris management. Disaster debris removal is often the first visible step a community takes in the recovery phase. Esri's ArcGIS solution for emergency debris management expedite initial debris removal operations, assess debris volume, and monitors the removal of debris accumulated on roads and public facilities by following the FEMA standard guidelines. And then finally, it allows you to monitor and manage restoration status. These patterns of collecting field data and displaying the results in dashboard can be extended to many other aspects of the recovery process, including power status, transportation updates, inspections, and more. Now, I'd like to point out that while FEMA and or emergency agencies in the Caribbean differ in structure, scope, and governance due to regional and administrative factors, they share a common goal, which is supporting disaster recovery and building resilience. So both entities contribute to efforts such as support for disaster recovery and reconstruction, improve resilience to future disasters, provide funding for critical infrastructure and community recovery, and they promote disaster risk reduction strategies. So yes, Esri solutions are aligned with FEMA programs. However, please note that all database included in the solutions available on Esri's platform can be configured to meet the specific needs of emergency management agencies in our region. And additionally, no programming skills or very little programming skills are required to customize these databases. So it makes it accessible and adaptable for a wide range of users. Now we will look at the final demo of the morning. And when every second counts, to be prepared, Esri's integrated location-based solution helps you empower your team with real-time disaster intelligence. Now you can navigate the community, assess damage, and deploy your teams faster with more reliable intel. The technology that will be displayed in this demo are Survey 123, Quick Capture, Dashboards, ArcGIS Hub, Web App Builder, and Experience Builder. And this disaster management solution is for damage assessment field staff or damage assessment coordinator and manager.
Hello. Today we'd like to show you how the damage assessment solution from Esri can help you streamline the damage assessment process, inform and engage the public, and expedite recovery funding. Here we're looking at an operations dashboard view of the work that's already been conducted by teams in the field for a flooding scenario in Columbus, Ohio. We can see the breakdown by assessment type and current key performance indicators like the current level of damage that's been estimated. Now, this works in conjunction with Esri's Survey 123 application, which is a mobile application that works on your smartphones or laptop devices, as you see here, to allow us to quickly collect information from the field. So here I can quickly fill out the forms that are required by the damage assessment process and the work that FEMA has done to outline the key fields that we need to collect as a part of our assessment process. Now, this obviously will work with our GPS information on our device, or we can simply move the cursor on target here and place this on the map of where we need to collect this information. And since we're leveraging GIS capabilities here, obviously it's looked up the current address based on where we clicked, and it can also leverage other reference GIS data, such as the assessor's office data for parcel ID and value, as well as other GIS layers, such as the building footprint layer from FEMA. We'll validate here the state and county for our collection and fill out the required fields. Now here within Survey 123, it's got the convention to ask additional questions based on our answers to previous questions. And this really helps streamline the collection process for filling out the required information. this field here is the degree of damage, and this represents how the information will be represented, on the map, and will and when this information is submitted. Now note that this will work if you're connected to the internet or not, and all that information will be stored on the device, and you can synchronize once you have connectivity. The last step here is I'll add in a photo to or several photos based on what we collected in the field, and this could be on from various sides of the building. Now I'll go ahead and submit this information here. Now back on the dashboard, I can see that the results from the field teams have been submitted and synchronized here as a part of the process. And if I zoom in and click on this particular point, I can get some of the information that's been collected in the field, including the picture. Now in this case, this is elements from the individual assistance program, but there's additional forms and components to support the public assistance program as well, and collect information kind of from that perspective and for that particular program. Now, additionally, we'd like to share with you and show a, a, a hub site that's been configured and provided as a part of the solution template. Now, this is based on top of the FEMA standard forms, and we're getting additional summary information here that's been collected. And this is an example of what could be shared with the public. Now, there's also an internal destination page that is only accessible within inside your organization and those that you choose to share with, where you can provide summary information. We can see the dashboards that show the progress of the team so far. We can provide additional context and instruction on how to help and collect and manage all of this information. Outline the process, and provide QR codes to the various applications to help field teams get started quickly. Coach them on what the different damage categories look like. Again, provide the additional links and reference information, including frequently asked questions, as a part of the process. Now back to that public information page. Here we can share additional information with the public, including helping them understand some of the pictures and the damage that have been collected so far. Additionally, and what's critically important is, in the spirit of informing and engaging the public, is providing a mechanism for the public actually to come in and report on damage that they experience, as a part of the flooding. And we've seen this as a pattern that's worked, very well in the user community, and seen many great examples of this type of use, where the public actually will come in and fill out the process to really kind of help get the information started, and then this information can then be validated by the field assessment teams using their survey 1, 2, 3 tools to be able to collect and manage all of this information. So this public form can be configured with the appropriate information, and if you need to include additional information to be collected for other programs or other information, that certainly could be done here as a part of the process. And so now in some of the recent additions including the CAPTCHA validation here, so we can make sure we're getting good information from the public, and that's simply just a feature of survey 1, 2, 3, and something that's been added here as a part of the process. So now that this particular form has been submitted, we can go back to our damage assessment operations application and go to the manage view. And what this allows us to do is to see some of the reports that have been submitted in by the public. So in this case, we've got different colors, so we can see that here's this red dot that's been submitted. And so now, using the new web editor application, I can update the attributes of this information and basically pull through the information here. And now I want to assign this to a person to go out and validate this particular information. So in this case, I'll assign this to myself. And so basically what's going to happen now is, leveraging the components of survey 1, 2, 3, we could, in the inbox feature here, we can see that we've got a new assignment that's been made as a part of the process, and our field teams can go out and validate this information, and be able to go out and validate that in the field and update and further refine the data that's collected here as a part of the process. Additionally, the Esri damage assessment solution comes with a quick capture project to allow teams in the field to do quick windshield surveys, and with big fat buttons allow folks just to, with a couple of clicks, collect information in the field on the current status. Now, this is used early on after a disaster, and in a similar fashion to the public damage reports, the windshield reports can be further validated and assigned to various field staff throughout the process. One last module that we'd like to highlight as a part of the damage assessment solution is the administration module here that provides some utilities to help manage active incidents, provision users. There's a capability inside here to generate reports. So certainly FEMA will accept digital submissions of the data using ArcGIS Online group sharing, which I'll show in a second. But also note that Survey 123 has the capability to generate reports, and the traditional street sheet style of report can be generated as a part of the process if that's a requirement for your organization or jurisdiction, as well. So again, the last kind of component here from an administration perspective is basically sharing the results of your work in an ArcGIS Online group. This is what can be used to add in folks from the state or the FEMA region for them to have visibility into the data that's collected, and this is what the FEMA FACT team will be looking for as a part of the damage assessment process. And there is more information on the FEMA website on all of this, process and, kind of highlighting the standard. In this case, the Esri solution for damage assessment has simply wrapped up the great work from the FEMA team and made it easier for the GIS community to deploy and configure. This concludes our tour of the Esri damage assessment solution. Thanks for watching.
All right, so the ArcGIS system supports the workflows and missions of today's emergency management agencies, whether that's conducting impact analysis, operationalizing hazard mitigation plans, enhancing situational awareness, or expediting damage assessment and recovery funding. ArcGIS can help in all the areas we've talked about today and more. And the ArcGIS system is also flexible and adaptable and will help you meet new challenges and evolving missions of tomorrow. So there's no need to go back out to sending out RFPs for technology for each new mission. All right, so we've reached the end of our webinar, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I would like to continue with any questions that you may have. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat and I will respond to them, please. Thank you.
Just a reminder that if you guys have any questions, you can just put them in either the Q&A feature or the chat. Okay, Nicola, I'm seeing an anonymous question coming in, and this person is asking, how long can it take to build and operationalize a system like this for all that was covered in the presentation?
Well, there are, as mentioned before, there are solutions available for each of the areas discussed. And when you visit the site, you simply click on the deploy button and it will allow you to download the solutions into your environment. Now, the time it would take would depend on how your knowledge. So you would populate your information into the databases provided and perform the different analysis that are important to you. So it really depends on your skills, but there are guidelines available to assist you.
Okay, another question from Mr. Calvert Thomas, and he's asking, how connected is the software to local disaster mitigation offices in the Caribbean to enable practical on-time information?
So I said before, you can configure the solutions to fit your needs. Now, it is most of the field in the solutions will fit our agencies. There might be a few difference, but you can configure them to fit your needs. All right, I'm seeing another question about persons who don't have full. What about persons who do not have full access to the ArcGIS solutions? All right, so for you to be able to deploy any of the solutions discussed, you simply need ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. If you have ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Professional user type, that comes with ArcGIS Pro. Once you have ArcGIS Pro, that is it. You can deploy the solutions in your environment.
I'm seeing another question here that says, in a country where there's a lot of conflict, how can GIS help? Is this a question that you can answer at this time, Nicola?
Can I know who asked that question? What agency? Would it be possible for me to have a one-on-one discussion with you?
This is coming from, and I do apologize if I do not pronounce this properly. This is a Enoch Bento. And I can share, let's see. All we can do is find a way to reach out to this person afterwards so you can have a one-on-one with them. Because
Yes,
I
please,
don't
because
think.
I would need a little bit more information from you. So if it's possible, I would love to have a one-on-one.
Okay, so we can definitely arrange for that after this. And also I see an Angela Duncan asking if an email can be sent with the link to the templates shown for the forms for data collection. Would you be able to share that with me so I can dispense them, Nicola?
For the data collection, this is the data.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can. I'll share the link to the. I'm assuming this is for the damage assessment report, and I can share the link to that, and that link will provide you with additional information and guide you on how you can prepare your own data assessment. So yes.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Any more requests?
And just to say, for the persons asking for additional information on data and links, if you
don't mind, I would really love to have a one-on-one discussion with you. So I will respond to you by email, and based on your availability, we could have a discussion. All right.
So there will be the recording of this webinar will actually be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back over what was presented, you will have a chance to do that once it's uploaded. And once we do have it uploaded, you guys will be notified.
All right. Do we have any more questions? If you cannot think of anything right now, you can always feel free to email me at support@spatialvision.com, and I'd be more than happy to assist.
Okay, I think that we are at the stage where we can wrap up at this point. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And we hope that this discussion has provided you with a deeper understanding of how GIS technology is reshaping emergency management across the Caribbean and beyond. From real-time situational awareness and improve the coordination to more effective resource allocation and long-term resilience planning. A special thank you to you, Nicola, for sharing this informative presentation and for sharing your practical examples of how geospatial tools are making a real difference in crisis response and preparedness efforts. So if you guys didn't get a chance to ask your question during this session, or if something comes to mind later, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to continue the conversation. As mentioned before, a recording of today's session will be made available, so you can revisit the key takeaways or share them with your teams and colleagues. At Spatial Innovision, we're committed to helping organizations across the region harness the full potential of GIS to solve real-world challenges. If you're interested in learning more about how we can support your emergency management goals or any other geospatial initiatives, don't hesitate to connect with us. On behalf of the entire team, thank you once again for being here. Stay safe, stay informed, and we hope to see you at our next session. Have a great day, you guys.